There comes a moment in every man's life when the noise stops and the truth begins. Not the gentle truth they taught you in school, not the romantic lie they sold you in movies, the real truth. And it hits you like a blade in the dark because you never saw it coming. You believed the world operated on loyalty. You thought trust was currency. You believed that if you were good enough, kind enough, present enough, the world would reciprocate. And then one day, without warning, without mercy, without explanation, someone you held close showed you exactly who they were. Not through words, through actions, through betrayal, through the cold mathematics of self-interest that has governed human beings since the beginning of time. That moment, that exact fracture in your understanding of reality, that is not your failure. That is your awakening. I'm not here to tell you that life is fair. I'm not here to comfort you with platitudes about karma and the universe balancing things out. Those are stories told by people who haven't survived what you have. I'm here to tell you something far more valuable. That awakening you just experienced, that break in your trust that wound in your heart, it was the most important education you will ever receive. Because from this point forward, you can either remain naive and continue to be destroyed, or you can step into a different kind of power. A power that Niccolo Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago when he watched good men get devoured by the world because they refused to see it as it actually is. Not as we wish it to be. As it truly is, a game. A cold, that man, that version of you who is awake, he is standing at a crossroads right now, and this video is the map. Now, before we go deeper into this territory, I need to establish something critical. The intelligence you're about to learn, the principles of Machiavellian strategy, the insights into human nature and power dynamics, these are tools for self-protection and personal mastery, not weapons for the exploitation of innocent people. This is about becoming wise to the game so you can't be played. It's about building a mind that cannot be manipulated. It's about understanding that predatory behavior exists in the world and refusing to be its victim. That's not cruelty. That's survival. With that understood, let's explore the 8 principles that separate the men who control their lives from the men whose lives control them. Number 1. Pain is not your punishment, it's your curriculum. Let me tell you something that no one else will tell you with honesty. The pain you've experienced wasn't an accident. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't random cruelty from the universe. Every betrayal, every lie, every person who smiled in your face and then plotted behind your shadow, every moment someone made you feel worthless, inadequate, or disposable. They were all teachers, brutal teachers, merciless teachers, but teachers nonetheless. Machiavelli wrote something that changed how I see human motivation. He said that men will forget the death of their fathers sooner than the loss of their inheritance. Read that again and let it burn into your consciousness. Men prioritize their material self-interest over blood relations, not because they are evil. Think about the last time someone close to you betrayed you. Really think about it. Wasn't it because their self-interest suddenly outweighed their loyalty to you? Maybe a business partner took your idea. Maybe a friend borrowed money and disappeared. Maybe a romantic partner kept lying despite multiple chances to come clean. Were they acting maliciously? Or were they simply prioritizing their own survival and advancement over your feelings? This is the distinction that separates victims from survivors. Victims believe betrayal means the person is evil. Survivors understand that betrayal means the incentive structure shifted. The person saw an opportunity where your trust seemed more valuable than your relationship. That's not evil. That's economics. That's human nature. And once you understand this, you stop being shocked by people. You stop taking their actions personally. You start seeing them clearly. Now, here's where most men collapse under this realization. They sit in that pain. They replay it endlessly. They beg for closure from people who never gave them a second thought after the betrayal. They rot in their own suffering, hoping that understanding the person's motives will somehow ease the wound. But that's not what transformation requires. Pain is only valuable if you extract the lessons from it and then weaponize those lessons into wisdom. You take every scar, every sleepless night, every moment you felt worthless, and you forge it into something unbreakable, into strategic intelligence, into the ability to read number 20, The mask is your greatest asset, not deception. Every man has a face, but a powerful man chooses which face to show and when to show it. This is not deception in the way the word is commonly understood. This is survival. This is strategy. This is the mastery that Machiavelli described when he said that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few ever experience what you really are, and those few should be no one. You have been walking through life with your emotions painted across your face like an open book. When you were angry, people saw it. When you were hurt, they could smell the blood in the water. When you were desperate, they weaponized it against you. That era ends today. Think about how you behave in front of your boss versus how you behave in front of your closest friend. You already know this principle. You already wear a mask in professional settings. You show a composed version of yourself. You don't tell your boss about your insecurities or your doubts. You don't reveal your full strategy until it's executed. Why? Because instinctively, even without understanding the principle, you know that full transparency makes you vulnerable. The professional mask protects you. Now I'm telling you to expand that principle into every area of your life. Your emotions are data. When you leak them freely, you hand people the blueprint to manipulate you. They study your reactions. They note what triggers you. They catalog what weakens you, and then they use that information like a hacker uses a password list. But when you master the mask, when you learn to show composure, even in chaos, when you respond to provocation, here's a real-life example. Two men are in a negotiation. The first man, when offended by a low offer, immediately shows his anger. His face flushes, his voice rises, his hands shake. The second man, when offered the same insulting price, simply pauses. He looks at the person with calm eyes. He says nothing for 10 seconds. Then he calmly states his actual requirements. Which man has more power in that room? The second one. Because he demonstrated that the other person's actions don't control his emotional state, he is unshakable. He is dangerous because he is unpredictable to those who don't understand his mind. Dark psychology teaches that emotional display is a form of surrender. When you show your cards emotionally, you admit that something outside of you has power over something inside of you. The strong man understands this. He may feel rage. He may feel hurt. He may feel desperate. But he keeps that internal. He becomes calm. He becomes a fortress with no visible weaknesses, no entry points, no places for others to strike. This extends to victory as well. When something goes right, most men celebrate too early. They show relief. They show happiness. This signals weakness. It signals that they were uncertain before. A strategic man receives good news and remains unmoved. Why? Because celebrating too early is like screaming that you didn't expect to win. It gives away information. The mask stays on. The smile remains calm. The internal victory is savored in silence. Number 3E. Trust no one completely. Pattern recognition, not paranoia. He watched men and women he considered trusted allies betray each other when the incentive structure changed. Nothing has changed in 500 years. Human nature hasn't evolved. People are loyal to their own survival first, always. This doesn't make them evil. It makes them human. And once you accept this principle, you stop being destroyed by the inevitable moment when someone shows you where their true loyalty lies, which is to themselves. You can love people and still protect yourself. You can respect people and still keep your exit strategy prepared. You can build genuine connection with people and simultaneously refuse to give them the keys to your entire kingdom. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. In business, you have a partner you genuinely like. You've built something together. You trust this person. But you don't give them full access to your financial records. You don't tell them your private exit strategy. You don't reveal your backup plans or your contingencies. Why? Because the day their survival needs to conflict with yours, they will move. They will have to. And when that day comes, you don't want them to know the exact shape of your vulnerability. You've given them access to rooms, not to the entire house. Same principle applies in relationships. You can be vulnerable with someone and still maintain psychological independence. You can open your heart and still guard your mind. Dark psychology reveals that betrayal rarely comes from genuine hatred. It comes from opportunity. It comes from someone recognizing that they can take something of value from you with minimal consequence. A man who trusts no one completely but treats everyone with respect becomes almost immune to betrayal because he has already mentally prepared for the scenario where everyone disappoints him, and therefore, when it happens, it doesn't break him. It's merely confirmation of a hypothesis he already held. The greatest leaders in history understood this. They smiled at their rivals and dined with their enemies. They shook hands with men they knew were plotting against them. But they never once made the mistake of full exposure. They never revealed everything. They never handed anyone the complete picture of their operations, their vulnerabilities, or their plans. Constantine, Cleopatra, Napoleon, these weren't paranoid individuals. They were realists. And their realism is precisely what kept them in power while others fell. Underscore, 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 underscore. Underscore, 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 underscore. There is no weapon more underestimated and more devastatingly effective than a man who understands when to shut his mouth. Machiavelli observed that the tongue has destroyed more empires than any sword ever could. Think about that for a moment. Not armies, not weapons, not disease or natural disaster, the tongue. Words. Because words reveal intention, words expose strategy. Words give your enemies a map directly into your mind, and most men hand that map over willingly because they cannot resist the urge to be heard, to be understood, to defend themselves to people who have already made up their minds about them. Think about the last time you were in conflict with someone. What happened? You probably explained yourself. You probably tried to justify your position. You probably told, and while they're talking, while they're filling the silence with justifications and excuses, he's studying them. He's reading the micro-expressions that reveal what their words try to hide. He's collecting data while everyone else is leaking it. When someone attacks you and you say nothing, something breaks in their certainty. They expected a reaction. They prepared for your anger or your defensive explanation. But you gave them nothing. And nothing is the most terrifying response a man can give because it creates a vacuum. And humans instinctively try to fill vacuums. They start wondering what you're thinking. They project their fears onto your silence. They begin to fear what you might know that you're not saying. That's psychological dominance without lifting a finger. Here's a real-world scenario. A client demands to know why a project is late. A weak manager immediately starts explaining circumstances, roadblocks, team challenges. The client is now frustrated because they're hearing excuses. A strong manager pauses, says, "I understand your frustration." Pauses again. "We're addressing it." Silence. The client, now uncertain, actually starts to wonder if they're being unreasonable. The pause and the silence did more to regain control than any lengthy explanation could have done. Dark psychology teaches that silence also dramatically increases your awareness. While others are busy talking, you're absorbing. You're reading body language. You're noticing incongruences between what people say and what they mean. You're catching the tells that reveal truth beneath the surface. From this day forward, speak less. Observe. Number 5. Kill your need for approval, freedom through detachment. The most invisible chain a man wears is his need to be liked. It wraps around his throat like a noose and controls every decision he makes. He says yes when he means no. He laughs at jokes that insult him. He shrinks himself to make others comfortable. He abandons his own vision to fit inside someone else's approval meter, and he calls this being a good man. It is not. It is slavery. Machiavelli understood that the moment a man builds his life around the approval of others, he has handed them the remote control to his existence. They decide when he feels confident. They decide when he feels worthy. They decide when he rises and when he falls, and he just sits there, performing like a puppet, pretending that he has agency while someone else pulls the strings. Dark psychology exposes this truth without mercy. The need for approval is the easiest lever to manipulate a human being. Narcissists use it. Toxic leaders use it. Manipulative partners use it. They give you validation when you obey and withdraw it when you resist. They praise you for compliance. They criticize you for independence. And because you're addicted to their approval, you keep crawling back. You keep trying to find the magic formula that will finally make them proud. This cycle ends now. Think about your own life. Is there someone whose approval you're seeking? A parent? A partner? A boss? Imagine what you would do, what risks you would take, what dreams you would pursue if their approval suddenly didn't matter, if their opinion became just background noise. That's the man you're about to become. The man who is immune to approval and therefore impossible to manipulate. Let them judge you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them whisper about you in rooms you will never enter. Their opinion is background noise. The only sound that matters is the sound of your own vision coming to life. The only applause that counts is the sound of your results speaking for themselves. A man who is no longer seeking approval from anyone becomes frightening to those around him because he can't be controlled. You can't threaten him with your disapproval. You can't bribe him with your praise. You can't manage him through guilt. He moves on his own terms. He thinks his own thoughts. He builds his own path, and that kind of freedom produces results that approval-seeking men can only dream about. The paradox is that the moment you stop seeking approval, people automatically respect you more. They sense your independence. They sense your internal certainty, and they're drawn to it like insects to light. Number 6, control the frame or become the game. Strategic positioning. Every room you walk into has a game being played. Every conversation has an agenda underneath it. Every handshake has a calculation behind it. The only question is whether you see the board or whether you are merely a piece on it. Machiavelli didn't invent this game. He simply had the courage to describe it while everyone else pretended it didn't exist. Power is not given. It is taken. It is positioned. It is engineered through patience, precision, and a mind that thinks 10 moves ahead while everyone else is reacting to the move directly in front of them. This is where strategic intelligence becomes indispensable. Most men are reactive. Something happens and they explode. Someone insults them and they retaliate blindly. An opportunity appears and they rush in without calculating the cost. That's not strength. That's chaos wearing the mask of aggression. A strategic man doesn't react. He responds. And there is a canyon of difference between those two words. Reaction is emotional. Response is calculated. Dark psychology teaches that the person who controls the frame controls the outcome. The frame is the lens through which a situation is interpreted. Whoever sets that lens wins the narrative. If someone tries to frame you as desperate and you accept that frame, you lose before the game even begins. If someone frames a negotiation as a favor to you and you believe it, you've already surrendered your leverage. But when you see the frame for what it is, when you recognize that frames are subjective constructions designed to serve the person who created them, you gain the power to break them and rebuild them in your favor. Let me give you a practical example. You're in a salary negotiation. The employer says, "Look, we'd love to hire you, but we're a startup and can only offer you less than market rate. We're offering you an opportunity and the chance to be part of something special." That's the frame. They're framing it as you being lucky to work there, as if the opportunity is the real payment. A man who understands framing doesn't argue against that frame. He breaks it. He says, "I appreciate the vision. I can see the potential. And my value to getting to that vision." He studies the people he's dealing with. He maps their weaknesses. He identifies their leverage points. He positions himself where gravity works in his favor. He doesn't hope for good outcomes. He architects them. He doesn't wait for opportunities. He creates them. Underscore, 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 underscore. underscore 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 underscore. The world will tell you that being alone is a sign of failure, that if you're not surrounded by people, something is wrong with you. That loneliness and solitude are the same thing. They are not. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. Solitude is the power of it. And the men who changed the course of history understood this distinction deeply. Machiavelli spent his exile in solitude. He was stripped of his title, removed from the political arena he loved, and left in isolation. And what did he do with that silence? He wrote The Prince, a book that has shaped the minds of leaders, strategists, and philosophers for over 5 centuries. That is what solitude does to a man who refuses to waste it. It doesn't weaken him. It sharpens him into something the world is not ready for. Most men fear being alone because in silence they are forced to confront themselves. No distractions, no noise, no validation loop from social media, no constant input, just in the quiet mind of a solitary man who has decided exactly who he is and refuses to negotiate that identity. In solitude, you build the mind that no one can manipulate. You develop a relationship with your own thoughts that becomes your most powerful counsel. You stop outsourcing your clarity to other people and start generating it from within. The greatest empires were not planned in loud rooms. They were born in the quiet minds of solitary men who refused to be distracted by the noise of the average. Think about your own patterns. How much time do you spend in solitude versus being constantly connected? How much time do you spend thinking versus being entertained? A strategic man guards his solitude like a king guards his throne room. Go dark for a while. Disappear. Let people wonder where you went. Let them start to fear your absence. And when you return so transformed, so locked in, so dangerously focused that they barely recognize the man standing before them. Solitude is not your punishment. It is your throne room. Number each. The cold heart is not heartless, mastery, not cruelty. Let me correct something the world keeps repeating. They will tell you that becoming cold means becoming cruel, that shutting off your emotions makes you a monster, that choosing logic over feelings makes you less human. They are wrong, and they are wrong because they have never been forced to survive the way you have. A cold heart is not a dead heart. It is a protected heart. It is a heart that has been broken so many times that it finally learned to build walls not out of hatred but out of wisdom. It learned that every vulnerability isn't strength, that every trust isn't honor. Machiavelli never taught men to be evil. He taught men to stop being naive. There is a critical difference between cruelty and clarity. Cruelty destroys without reason. Clarity removes what threatens your peace with surgical precision. Clarity is discernment. Cruelty is malice. The cold-hearted man still feels. He feels deeply, perhaps more deeply than anyone around him, but he has learned the discipline of not letting those feelings drive his decisions. He loves, but he doesn't lose himself in love. He cares, but he doesn't let that care become a leash others can pull. He hurts, but he processes that hurt in private and shows the world only his composure. That is not heartlessness. That is mastery. Dark psychology reveals that emotional reactivity is the #1 tool used against men by those who understand manipulation. Society wants you emotional because emotional men are predictable. They're easy to manipulate. They're easy to exploit. They want you angry so you make mistakes. They want you desperate so you settle for less. They want you sentimental so you forgive people who have shown you exactly who they are. The cold-hearted man breaks this cycle entirely. He doesn't react on impulse. He doesn't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. He pauses. He calculates. He sees the full board before he makes a move. And when he does move, it is with the kind of terrifying calmness that makes everyone in the room pay attention. You are not becoming heartless. You are becoming untouchable. You are not killing your emotions. You are promoting your mind to the throne and demoting your feelings to advisors. They can speak. They can inform. But they no longer rule. They no longer drive. This is the transformation most men never complete, because they confuse emotional discipline with emotional death. It doesn't. Feel everything. Feel the full spectrum. But let nothing control you. Let your heart beat in silence while your mind conquers in public. That is the code of the cold-hearted man, not broken, not bitter. Just finally dangerously awake. Underscore 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 underscore. Read that not out of boredom. Something inside you recognized itself in these words. Something dormant that has been waiting for permission to rise. This is that permission. But let me be brutally honest with you. Listening means nothing without action. You can hear every principle, absorb every strategy, and memorize every word Machiavelli ever wrote. But if you walk away from this video and change nothing, you are no different than you were before you pressed play. The man you were was losing. That man was being used, overlooked, manipulated, and discarded. Do not go back to him. The transformation I'm talking about is not something that happens overnight. It is not a switch you flip. It is a war you wage every single day against your old habits, your old patterns, and your old identity. Dark psychology has shown you the game. Machiavellianism has handed you the playbook. But execution is yours and yours alone. No one is coming to save you. No mentor. No motivational video. No magical moment of inspiration. It is you against your own weakness. And that is the only fight that has ever truly mattered. Start today. Cut off what drains you. Distance yourself from those who do not add value to your evolution. Guard your energy the way a general guards his borders. Speak less. Observe more. Plan relentlessly. Move strategically. Trust the process even when the results are not yet visible. The man you are becoming does not yet exist, but every decision you make from this moment forward is either building him or burying him. There is no middle ground. There is no neutral. You are either becoming dangerous or remaining forgettable. Choose wisely. This is your era. This is your chapter. This is the part of your story where everything changes and no one sees it coming until it is far too late to stop you. Underscore 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 underscore. If this monologue has lit a